My name is Brian Norris, and I'm a frameaholic. Luckily, my love of framing is actually a fun hobby and not a disease. Now, it's actually started back when I was in college about 15 or so years ago. I actually worked at a craft store in the framing department. And what we would usually do is we would actually have people coming in with pictures and posters and things that they wanted to put in frames. It's very simple, kind of boring after a while. But luckily, we occasionally had a fun order, which is a shadow box display. Now, the first thing I actually did for a shadow box display was when a city leader came in and had a key to the city that they wanted to display in his office. Now, it was pretty basic. It was just kind of attached it and put it on there, but it was fun and I was hooked. Since then, I actually started working with different scraps I found around the store, some different empty shadow box frames, and making my own designs. The store owner liked it so much that she actually started selling those throughout the store. I ended up making different types of shadow box designs, both to sell as well as for each of the different departments, just kind of show it was actually on hand. After I left that company for bigger and better things, I still decided to make shadow box frames for myself for fun and for basically showing around the house, as well as for friends and family. And I actually want to show you how to make some for yourself. Now, to start with, I want to show you some of the basic things you're going to have. Now, to start off, you're going to have the most important tools, which is scratch paper, pencil, and a good small tape measure. Now, the type of tape measure that you're going to want to use is going to be a fabric one, not a kind of metal one that you get from most hardware stores or what you usually find in the garage. A fabric one is going to make sure that you don't actually scratch up the frame, the matting, or anything else that you actually have. Now, you can actually find those in most craft stores, upholstery stores, fabric stores, any places like that. Even places like Walmart and Target actually have them in their craft areas. So those again are going to be the most important things that you're going to be using. The main reason is because most of what you're going to be doing before actually creating it is creating the design. It's going to be a lot of measuring because you actually want to know the spacing and everything else for there. Now, once you've actually figured out the different measurements, then the next step is you're going to want to know about spacing because you actually want to make sure that everything is well displayed and seen. Now, this is an example of one thing that I've done. It's a Christmas gift I got a year ago for my wife, just some different batarangs. Now, the reason that spacing is so important is because everyone that comes into your home and looks at your walls and sees these is going to automatically notice if the spacing is a little bit off. Now, with these, it may be just slightly off because these are not permanently attached, but they're actually made so that this little bar here that it connects to is the exact same space for each, which makes sure that even if my putting it here is not exact, that it at least can be perfectly exact, potentially. For shadow boxes more permanent, you definitely want something that's going to be as exact as possible, because otherwise everyone's going to know if it's even just a half an inch off. Now, to kind of go over some of the different things, once you've actually got that figured out, you're going to want to figure out how heavy something is. You're going to want to determine the weight. And the reason that's important is because that's going to determine the mounting style that you use for your shadow box frame. Now, mounting can be done a few different ways. Now, you can actually get these from some companies. A lot of different framing companies will actually have these kind of permanent clip frames that'll attach to the backing of the frame itself and will permanently hold in whatever you're wanting to display. Another thing you can do is, if it's a little bit lighter, you can use kind of a clear thread, like a fishing line. I actually occasionally use this. It's actually a clear jewelry line. Works great. It's barely noticeable, so it actually displays everything you have well without taking away anything from what you're actually showing off. Another thing you can use, if it's a little bit lighter, is double-sided tape. You can use foam mounting squares like this, where each side just kind of peels off and stick you on each side, and then attach that to the frame itself. You can also use basic glue, and you can use kind of a glue stick if it's something a little bit thinner or a little bit lighter. You can use kind of a more permanent glue like crazy glue, hot glue, something like that, if it's something that you don't mind it being permanently attached to that frame itself. If it's something that you actually want to take off potentially one day, I would definitely not suggest that. And the other way that you can use, or other way you can attach that for a frame, is through a thin wire. Now, in this slide here, someone actually decided to show off a kind of a thick, hard hammer that they have, or a little bit heavy, and they actually use kind of a thin wire to hold it up there. As long as it's actually secured well, it'll hold permanently and can still be used great. Again, you want to use something as thin as possible, but as strong as possible, so it's still inconspicuous. Now, once you've actually figured out the mounting and everything, the next thing you'll want to figure out for your design is for the backing. Now, the backing of a shadow box or even just a picture frame is called the mat board. Now, this is just some of the different types that I have. A few different types. They come in all different types of colors and textures. On here you can see kind of some of the flat, kind of some of the more speckled. Have these in different types of suedes. I even have ones myself, kind of a shiny metallic, kind of a faux leather texture, and even just kind of different colorings of different types of faux suede material. Now, once you've actually figured out the design, then you're going to want to make sure to get your tools together. Now, the different tools that I use in particular is this is a point driver. This is going to be what, when you're getting ready to be done, will hold the backing of the frame on there. Now, on here it uses screws instead of this because it's such a thin frame, but most you're going to be able to use a point driver like this. You push it, hold it down, and then once you're ready to attach the backing, you're going to squeeze like you would a staple gun, and it'll secure that on there. You're going to want to do that about 3 or 4 times on each side, regardless of how thick or how heavy the frame is or how big it is. You're still going to want to use at least 3 or 4. You can definitely use more if it's a little bit larger or wider, but a minimum of 3 or 4 each. Now, the other kind of main tools that you'll actually have is just kind of basic X-Acto knife or some sort of kind of a scissors or some sort of a cutter, because you're going to actually use this for making little changes or little corrections to the mat board or the backing board. Basically, it's going to be a kind of use-all type of tool for this. You can use it to actually make holes in the mat board so you can attach everything through the backing for the foam core backing, which again is going to be another part of this, the material. You've already seen the type of shadow box, you've seen the mat board, and this is going to be what goes behind everything. This is called a foam core board. Now, unless you're going with a ready-made shadow box, which you can as well, that's going to be the absolute backing to whatever you're using and what you attach this to keep everything together. If you're using a ready-made shadow box, you're still going to want to use a little bit of that for spacing between the mat board and that backing as well, so that it keeps everything secure and actually make sure that it stays in there snugly. Now, once you have the materials and once you've gotten that all done, the next step you're going to have is going to be to prep the materials. Now, for this here, you can see where they've actually cut the mat board and actually have different types of boards. Now, this is something that you may not want to do yourself, but you can actually take this to a framing shop and they can make the professional type of openings like that. Also, something you can do yourself is just kind of do the basic matting instead of doing the kind of openings. Just cut your mat board to size so it'll actually fit in the frame. Cut the foam core backing so you can actually get that all attached. And just make the holes and getting everything ready to be mounted on there. Once you've actually gotten that done, the next part is going to be the assembly. Now basically that's going to be where everything just comes together. You'll attach everything to the mat board. You'll attach the mat board into the frame and then do the backing to the frame. And then once you have that, use your point driver, attach everything in there, and just try to, when you do this, hold that in, push it in, and squeeze all around the sides. Once all that's assembled, the last part is going to be actually attaching the hangers. Now, there are a few different types of hangers as well, again depending on the size and how heavy the frame itself is going to be. Now, this right here, it's not too heavy, pretty light, but we still went with kind of the medium type of use. This is kind of a strap hanger, but can also be used to hold a nail. Now, the three types that you're generally going to use and see in most stores, you're going to see the sawtooth, which is one like this. Basically where you take this and you attach it to the top and middle of the frame itself. And you're going to just either hammer that in, or you'll actually just kind of use maybe like even just a screwdriver and kind of push that in. As long as it actually is on there in the straight middle of the frame, because you're definitely going to want to measure that, and get that pushed in so that it's actually secure all the way into there. Now the next step, for something a little bit heavier, something about like this, is you're going to use the strap hangers. Now, the ones I used on here, as you can see, it's just like this, and this already came on this particular backing because this is already made. But otherwise, you'd actually just use a thin screw, just like a wood screw, and screw that into the backing of the frame back. Or you would actually attach this to left and right side of the frame and then use framing wire to actually connect that together so it actually holds on the wall. And this particular slide, you can kind of see where those were actually put on each side. The wire was on there, and then just kind of twisted onto each side to keep that in there secure. Now, the last type is going to be called the keyhole. Now, this is one where you're not going to really want to try to do this yourself because it generally requires actually drilling into the frame as well as potentially kind of cutting in there depending on the type you use. I would definitely suggest if you use any different types of hangers, if you're definitely starting out, then you're going to want to stick with the strapper that's called the D-ring type. Now, once you've had that, all you'd have to do is attach it to your wall. Now, that's really all you have to do. Now, in the end, Shadowbox displays are just various combinations of frames, materials, and whatever knickknacks you actually want to display. And with the right combination and your own design styles, you can make gorgeous designs and pieces of artwork that you can use for years to come. Do you have any questions?
No.
All right. Well, again, when you're done, what you create is all up to you. Have a great day.